Good morning, students. Yesterday class we discussed about DNS authentication protocols. I hope that all you have understood very well. Today class we are going to discuss about the message integrity protocols. The message integrity is defined as the validity of a transmitted message. It means that a message has not been tampered with or altered. And it also describes the concept of ensuring that data has not been modified in transmit. This is typically accomplished with the use of hash algorithms. The basic premise is a sender wishes to send a message to a receiver and wishes for the integrity of their message to be guaranteed. The sender will calculate a hash function on the message and include with that as digest. On the other side, the receiver will independently calculate the hash on the same message and compare the resulting digest with whatever they received from the sender. If they are same, then the message must have been the same as when it was originally sent by the sender. When using a secret key in conjunction with a message to attain message integrity, the resulting digest code as message authentication code, or shortly we can tell it as MAC. For this message integrity, we need hash function and secret key. With the help of these two combination only, we have to get the secure code as message digest that will be attached to the message from the sender and it is received by the receiver. The message integrity is performed in two ways. Either we can use parity bits or hash function. So these are all the two techniques used by the protocol to detect the modification of any of the bit stream in the message. To detect unintentional modification between sender and receiver, we are using this message integrity protocol. If you are using parity bit, if any of the bits are changed in the message, we are going to identify with that. It is a very simplest technique and it used an error detection code for identification. The second one is hash function. It is used to produce the checksum of the message. It must be the very small and fixed number of begins that is calculated against the block of data, and it is computed and appended before the message is transmitted, and it is verified afterwards by the recipient to confirm that no changes occurred on the transist or not. So this is the diagram shows how the MAC will work. If the sender sending any of the messages, that message is first of all encrypted using a MAC. Then the message and MAC is the code of message digest. So these two or come along with that, and it is sending to the receivers. Then in the receiver side, the same MAC algorithm with the secret key is applied on the message, and they will generate their own MAC, that is message digest. Then whatever the MAC received from the sender is compared with the receiver computed MAC. If both are same, in the sense the message is not altered, it is an authenticated and integrity is checked. So sometimes if there is any mismatch occurs, then the message is changed by someone. So this is the way you have to identify your messages integrity or not. For that we are using different types of protocols. One is digital signature using RSA, then keyed MD5, that is message digest 5, then MD5 with RSA signature. In the original cryptography techniques, the encryption is performed with the public key and decryption in the receiver side is performed with the private key. But here the encryption is performed with the private key of the sender and decryption is performed with the public key of the receiver. So this is the largest computational complexity is provided. So if you are going to perform the reverse operation, then it is impossible one to detect or identify your message. The second technique is keyed MD5. The sender sends the message with the encrypted form of the original message. In the receiver side, the sender and receiver share the key with the secret key values and computes once again with the MD5 of M plus K, then compare it with the receiving MD5. If both are matched, then there is no changes in the message. If any changes, then automatically error is occurred. Then MD5 with RSA is little bit varied. Here we are using private key for the encryption. Then in the receiver side we are using public key for the decryption. So this is the way you have to protect your message with various protocols. Then the next topic is public key distribution. So already we know that in cryptography we are using two different types of techniques. One is symmetric encryption and another one is asymmetric encryption. In symmetric encryption we are using secret keys. So the secret key is exchanged with the help of Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm. In asymmetric key we are using two keys, one is private key and public key. So private key is known to the user itself, but the public key is distributed to all users in a network. Then how the public key is distributed, we will see. Several techniques have been proposed for the distribution of public keys. Virtually all these proposals have been grouped into that as four different types of schemes. One is public announcement. It means that whenever the user A knows its public key, automatically it will broadcast its public key to all the users in the network. Then only the other users can know its A's public key. Likewise, whenever the user B knows the public key of their, then automatically it broadcasts its public key to other users in the network. So likewise, each and every user, they broadcast its public key to other users in the network. So in this, suppose you want to know the public key of user C, automatically you have to receive the broadcast message from C. Suppose any one of the user can broadcast others public key in this scenario. There is no security in this technique, public announcement. So that's why we are moving to that public directory. It means that it is similar to the telephone directory. Suppose the user knows its public key, automatically they have to place their public key to the public directory. Likewise, user B places their public key to that public directory. So all the users in a network, they have to place their public key in the telephone directory. Suppose the user C wants to know the public key of A, they can go and refer the public directory and get the public key of user A and transmit the message. Here is also there is no security here. So that's why we are moving to the third technique as public key authority. So public key authority and public key certificates, these two are trusted third party protocols. So with the help of these two techniques, we have to distribute our public key. So first we are going to discuss about the public key distribution scenario. This is a public key authority. Suppose I want to send the message from user A to user B. I don't know about the user B public key. For that, I am sending a request to public key authority. Here, the first step is we can make the request with the timestamp T1. The timestamp T1 indicates that when the particular message has been created. So we have to know the recent message. For that only we are attaching this timestamp to the request. Then the public key authority will send the response as the public key of the user along with that request that should be encrypted with the private key of the authority. So this is a very important one. The public key of the user should not be sent as the plain text. Here the public key of the user is attached with the sender's A request that should be encrypted using with the private key of authority. Then the user A will send the message to that responder with the public key of user B, then its own identity IDA along with its N1 indicates the nonce value. Then these combinations are encrypted and sent to the user B. Then automatically now user B wants to know the public key of user A. For that the user B now send the request to the public key authority with the message request and the timestamp T2. Then it will get the public key of user A along with its request that should be encrypted by the private key of the authority and sent to the user B. Now the user B knows the user A public key. So it will send the response to user A along with the user A public key with the nonce value N1, and now it introduced one new nonce value N2. So it is an acknowledgement of N1, which means that. So it should be encrypted with the public key of user A and sent to user A. Then the user A will give the acknowledgement for this. Again, the received nonce value of N2 is encrypted with the public key of user B and sent to user B itself. This is the way each and every user will get their own key, public key, and knows about other keys with the authenticated manner. So public key authority here plays a vital role to distribute the public key of all the users in a network. The fourth technique is certificate authority. This is little bit different from the public key authority because here each and every time the user made the request with the identity along with the public key of its own. For example, user A wants to send the message to user B. Now the way is it will send, first of all it will produce the public key to the certificate authority PUA. Public key is denoted by PUA. So it will send its own public key to the authority. Then the authority will produce the certificate CA to the user A. In this certificate, we are having the timestamp, then the identity of user IDA, then the public key of the corresponding A. So that should be given as, and that should be encrypted using a private key of authority and sent over to the user A. Now the certificate is produced to user B for communication. Likewise, the same kind, the user B also get the certificate from certificate authority. It produce their public key to the certificate authority, get the certificate B, then they will produce their certificate CB to A. So here only the certificates are exchanged between user A and B for its identity. So authentication is nothing but each and every person have its own identification. That must be an unique one. So likewise, with the help of certificate, they can authenticate each other. So this is the way of distributing and public key. So these are all the four different ways. So the first two is not secured one. By that we are moving to the third and fourth. Third and fourth all are based upon the trusted third parties. So we can get the public key in secured manner. The next topic is network layer security. So already we know that each and every layer functions up to this. Now we are moving to that security aspects. So the network layer is common to distribute the datagrams to all other layers. So that's why we need more security for this network layer. So in this network layer, security controls have been used frequently for securing the communication, particularly over the shared networks such as internet, because they can provide protection for many applications at once without modifying the message. Then for that we need an IP security protocol. It is most commonly known as IPsec. So it is a protocol suite that provides a security at the network layer. So it mainly concentrate on network layer confidentiality. The network layer would provide confidentiality if all data carried by the IP datagram was encrypted. This means that whatever a host wants to send a datagram, it encrypts the data field of the datagram before shipping it out into the network. In principle, the encryption could be done with symmetric key encryption, public key encryption, or sometimes it may mean session key that are negotiated using public key encryption. The data field could be a TCP segment or UDP segment, or sometimes it may be an ICMP, Internet Control Message Protocol, and so on. If such a network layer service were in place, all data sent by host, including email, web pages, control messages, and management messages, so would be hidden from any third party that was wiretapping the network. In addition to confidentiality, one might also want the network layer to also provide source authentication. When a destination host receives an IP datagram with a particular IP source address, it authenticates the source by making sure that IP datagram was indeed generated by the corresponding host with that same IP source address, such that a receiver side also we can authenticate the user. In the IPsec protocol suite, there are other two sub protocols used. One is authentication header protocol, that is AH protocol, and another one is encapsulation security payload protocol, that is ESP protocol. Along with that, for these two protocols are maintained using SA and key management. When a source host sends a secure datagram to a destination host, it does so with either AH protocol or ESP protocol. If you are using AH protocol, provides source authentication and data integrity but does not provide confidentiality. In ESP protocol, if you are using, then it provides authentication, data integrity, confidentiality. Providing more services, the ESP protocol is naturally more complicated and requires more processing than AH protocol. In both AH and ESP protocol, before secured datagrams are sent from source host to a destination host, the source and network host handshake and creates a network layer logical connection. This logical channel is called as secure association, that is an SA. So before we are going to send some messages, first we should establish the connection between them. In SA is uniquely identified with the three tuples which consist of security protocol identifier, then source IP address, then we are having some security parameter index. One is identifier, source IP address, then SPIS, security parameter index. In this SA and key management, for successful deployment of IPsec, that is an IP security protocol, a scalable and automated SA and key management scheme is necessary. Several protocols have been defined for this task. One is Internet Key Exchange Algorithm. It will defaultly manage the key management protocol for IP security. The second one is Internet Security Association and Key Management Protocol, ISKMP, which defines the procedure for establishing and tearing down the security association. So these two protocol IKE and ISKMP are used for establishing the security association before we are sending the message. It should be used only for establishing the logical connection between sender and user. So that's all about the today's session. Next session we are going to discuss about the transport layer security, application layer securities, and how all these layers are secured using firewalls. Thank you.